Brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Cody's brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Ride or die, 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 ride or die. Cody's brothers, my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta ride or die.
Warriors around, don't get caught in the mosh pit. Fuel to the fire, ain't nobody can stop it. Trouble in my city, but you know I'm across it. Got a 40 on my hip and I'm liable to spark it. Throw down these hits, my click is indivisible. I aim, you duck, I squeeze, now you invisible. I'm not afraid of getting physical. All these different chemicals are fogging up my visuals. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we notorious, we ain't no runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we some warriors, they ain't called gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Put on my strap, put on the beat, put on the map, put on my team. Take out every motherfucker in between, know what I mean? Better myself, better my aim, better my rap, better my name. Killing rappers on my hang, I'm by their chains for the fame. Never thought I would it, now I'm running. You don't wanna follow me, now I'm in front of.
Should inmates be given the gift of life? Good evening. Welcome, Steve, the kidney nurse. I am your host, Steve Belcher. Should inmates be given the gift of life? That's what we're talking about here tonight on Steve, the kidney nurse. And here to join me, I got two dynamic people, advocates, and a kidney warrior. But before I bring them on, I'd like to read you something from an article on ethics and practical considerations in transplanting prisoners from the transplantation magazine dated in 2020. So they say the U.S. Constitution guarantees adequate medical care to all convicts. However, transplantation is considered ethically contentious. The determination to authorize transplantation for an inmate is often made by the prison administration on a case-by-case basis. Nevertheless, the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network's Ethics Committee advises that one's status as a prisoner should not preclude them from consideration for a transplant. However, Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network acknowledges that other non-medical factors may influence patients' candidacy for transplant and delegate the listing decisions to the individual transplant programs. Consequently, programs make listing decisions in the absence of uniform criteria and hesitate to evaluate and waitlist prisoners. The possible reasons are logic challenges in clinical care, security concerns, uncertainty regarding medication adherence, and concern of loss of follow-up. Overcoming these challenges require programs, personnel to be highly motivated to accept convicts for transportation. Where's that music coming from? Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to bring on both of my guests one at a time. First off, I'm going to bring on my co-host. You all know him. He's no stranger. He's a host of The Warrior's Quest, which airs every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. right here on the Urban Health Outreach Media Network. So let me bring on no other than my co-host, Jared A. Brown. Hey, Jared, what's going on?
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself, man?
Good. I'm doing well, thanks, man. It's good to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. So just give a brief description of your show that airs every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, The Warrior's Quest.
Yeah, so the Warrior Show is it's based where we spotlight a chronic disease warrior who's generally looking for a living donor or someone who just wants to get their story out there to bring more awareness. You know, whether they have lupus, kidney disease, sickle cell, anything, you know, that is giving them a chronic illness, we're going to get their story out there and hopefully help them get help, get awareness out there, or just bring hope. That's the biggest thing I can say is I'm a big believer in hope.
Wow. Wow. So what platforms does the Warriors Quest broadcast on?
Well,
Social
you know,
media
that's
platforms?
well, more specifically Facebook and YouTube. However, using the platform that we're using right now, the third party to broadcast this restream, we're actually able to put this out there on right now. We're streaming to 23 different channels, destinations. So this is going out to Twitter right now. This is going out to Twitch. You know, even though, you know, we think of normally video games for Twitch, it's also streaming right now live on Twitch. You know, and so we're trying to get this out there as much as possible.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's bring on our second guest out of Kerrville, Texas. He's a transplant recipient warrior. He's also a VP and senior advocate at Kidney Solutions. Longtime advocate. He's known in the community and has helped thousands of kidney warriors or assist them and get, well, let me say hundreds. It could be 1,000. I don't want to over-exaggerate it, but Ken may come in and correct me on that. But I know he's assist and help hundreds of people looking for a kidney transplant and successfully went through the process with them, the whole process, didn't leave them alone. So without further ado, let's bring on our other co-host, Kent Bressler.
Kent Bressler.
Hey, Kent, how you doing? Hey, Kent, can you hear me?
Hello, Steve. Jared, how are you guys?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing fine.
Hi, doing well. To see you,
Good.
Kent.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Kent.
Having a little breakup.
Okay. That's no worries.
It's
Like I
in and
said,
out. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, man. No. Hey, this is technology, not human. It's technology. So we got to roll with the punches. So I know it's probably a little delay. So Kent, just share with the audience a brief description of what you do and your organization and your transplant. A little bit about your transplant story. Did you hear me, Kent?
No, you're completely breaking up, Steve. I'm so sorry. I think everything's fine on my end.
Can you share a brief description of what Transplant Solution does?
Yeah, Kidney Transplant Solutions is an organization that spends most of its time working in the preemptive arena, but we don't turn anybody away. We look to try to get people transplanted before they go on dialysis. But we don't turn anybody away. Everybody that's referred to us either by physician, nephrology, or just by volunteering, if they're on dialysis, we're going to help them. We're very closely knit with the patient concept to focus and make sure that they're taken care of through the whole transition of the program. In other words, we try to help them find a donor, which of course, we can't guarantee. And then we also are very, very conscious about what it's like to go in and have a transplant. So we're there with them either virtually or in person when they are transplanted. And then after that, we follow up and with them completely. I mean, we just support the transplant team. We're not in any way getting in the way of the transplant team. But it's just nice to have a mentor. We have mentors in our group, volunteer mentors, and it's nice for a patient to be able to pick up the phone or email or text or something and just get a hold of a mentor, someone who's been through the process, someone who's been transplanted, someone who's been a donor, and to talk to them, In other words, you get an answer on the phone, and not, so it's a good program. We've been very happy with it. We're not huge. We're not into numbers. We're just into helping patients. And like I said, we take everybody.
Now, Kent, just share briefly with us, how long have you had your transplant?
This coming April will be 35 years. My brother gave me a kidney. Yeah, it'll be 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Think about that, Jared.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's astounding.
Yeah, you don't get been. It's been a very nice journey. It's been fraught with danger. Life as you have a transplant, lots of times you end up having the life events like cardiac issues and things of that nature. I've had a vascular problem. I've had a AAA abdominal aortic aneurysm repaired. I've had a stent put in my heart. So life goes on even though you have a successful transplant. But I can also say that my brother Kip, who lives in Nebraska, is in very good shape. He's just as good a shape as I am. I might have got the best kidney out of the deal, though, I think.
Wow. Right. So let's get right into this topic, because the one reason, Kent, why I asked you to come on and let's just have a round top table discussion on this, because you advocate for anyone. You said you don't discriminate. So,
Yep.
That would include someone who maybe got out of prison that's on dialysis. We know you can't go inside the prison walls and advocate, but before we talk about this, let me just read you something, and then we'll talk, get into the discussion. In the United States, chronic kidney disease is prevalent among incarcerated individuals. Although the exact estimates are unknown, notably, there is no government mandate for transplant referral for prisoners with end-stage renal disease. Additionally, prisoners have poor access to transplantation, and according to a recent report, only 19% of kidney transplant programs have included prisoners on their wait list. Most inmates routinely receive chronic hemodialysis as opposed to transplantation, resulting in inferior survival and a significant financial burden to the state. Programs that have included prisoners have shown survival and cost benefits. Now, Kent, with that being said, why is it that the procurement, nevertheless, the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network's Ethics Committee advises that one's status as a prisoner should not include them from consideration for a transplant. But on the other tongue, they say, however, Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network acknowledges that other non-medical factors may influence patients' candidacy for transplant and delegates the listing decision to the individual transplant programs. With that being said, are prisoners, you heard the statistic, it says, additionally, prisoners have poor access to transplantation. According to a recent report, now this was in 2020, only 19% of kidney transplant programs have included prisoners on their wait list. That's a small number. Why the discrepancy of only, in your opinion, of only 19%? Do you think, even though they say all prisoners are able to do that, but you think on the back end, they really don't want to do it because there's really security concerns, logistic concerns, and other concerns that may pose a problem? Talk about that.
19% is roughly 50 transplant programs. There's 270 transplant programs in the country, roughly, depending, and we're just talking kidney here now, okay? 270. 19% of that leaves you with 58 transplant programs across the country, all right, that will take on, if you will, a incarcerated or a prisoner. And it's really driven, if you look at the healthcare provided within the prison system, and I'm no expert, believe me, I don't come off as an expert. Oh, no. I definitely, all I can tell you is what it's like to go through a transplant, but I'm also working with trying to get a patient a transplant, not in the system, but to donate to his mother. So I have had experience working with the prison system here in Texas. Although it's minimal, so to answer your question straight up, access is the word for anybody, regardless whether you're a prisoner or if you're out in quote the world. Access for blacks, Hispanics, and minorities. Let's just go that route. And so why would it be any different in a health system in a jail or a prison? The health system is not as good, all right? I have never seen any numbers, but I do know for a fact that if you are in need of a kidney in the system, you're more apt to end up on dialysis, and that's just the common thread. Whereas if you're out, you're not incarcerated, you have options. You're given options. You can get transplanted preemptively, or you can go on dialysis if you want, or you can go on a waiting list. So I see that as the real problem. It's access. And then having a transplant program, they're the ones that have to step up. The prison systems can't step up without having that's willing to take this on. And so again, there it goes. In kidney disease, not very much is said about it, not very much is done about it. And that needs to change.
Right. Yeah. I did a Facebook post that garnered a lot of responses in asking this question: should inmates be given the gift of life? And the majority of people said yes, they should. And you had a couple that said no. Now, but that being said, what if you had a gentleman that committed murder and he needed a transplant? He got kidney disease in prison and he needed a transplant. I mean, what about the victim's family? Wouldn't you think that would probably be a stomp in their face by giving a convicted murderer a living organ when they took the life of someone else?
I'm not the judge of human nature. I'm not the judge.
No. I understand that, but I just want to hear your thoughts on that as a transplant recipient and as an advocate for someone that advocates for transplant.
Personally, I believe everybody should be afforded an opportunity. Period. Just straightforward. If you have kidney disease and you live in this country, you're a citizen of this country, and you are sick with kidney disease, you ought to go through the evaluation and have an opportunity. And we'll leave the risk part of it up to the prison system and to the legal scholars, but I do know medically a person should be afforded a chance at life. That's my opinion.
Right. What are your thoughts? I mean, basically, it's almost the same as the death penalty, but on a different scale.
Well, yeah, it's just a march towards death. You know, there's only three things you get with kidney disease, right? You can transplant, or you go on dialysis, or you can die.
Right.
What's the fourth alternative? There is no fourth alternative here. And so it's the opportunity. What medical people are supposed to do is to afford an individual an opportunity to make a decision for them on what kind of care they want to have. All right. Now, if you're incarcerated and a lot of your rights have been taken away, that doesn't preclude you from having an evaluation, a good medical evaluation. What say the priest that's been working with you for 25 years would like to give you a kidney? Who's going to put a stop to that? Who's got the right to put a stop to that? Or let's say the mother or the brother has an opportunity to, and they're a good match. I would think that security could be mounted in order for that to happen. Whether it happens in the facility by bringing a transplant team in, or we've taken care of prisoners in all the time in the sector. We take care of them all the time. Now, there's risks involved. I get that. I'm just saying, from a medical standpoint, everyone should be afforded the opportunity.
Jared, what's your thoughts on this? You have a sister-in-law that was on dialysis for about 4 to 6 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. She's had a transplant almost 5 years ago, if something like that. And you advocated for her before you became host of the Warriors Quest show, and now you help kidney warriors search for a living donor. You've been doing it for the last 3 to 4 years. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Well, because my faith, I agree with Kent. I mean, medically and based on my faith, I believe the same thing. I think that everybody deserves a chance at a kidney transplant. It's I just don't think it's our place to judge.
No.
if that responsibility lies on a governor or some sort of legislator, then so be it. But if 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 it were just left to my devices, I'd have to say everybody deserves a chance at a kidney transplant. Absolutely.
Well, it's up to really the prison administration on a case by case basis if they would even let that happen, because they got to foot the bill. So, really, at the end of the day, they hold the key to, even though the nephrologist recommends it, the prison system can say no. So,
Wow.
the thing is,
Interesting.
if you're in the prison system that has it, then you're lucky. But if you're not, I mean, you're pretty much, SOL. And the thing about it, Kent, I was talking with someone earlier, and look, they talk about the cost of saving of the state for patients doing hemodialysis versus transplant. Okay, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
and so we know that the prison don't do dialysis themselves. They contract an outside company that comes in. So anyone could come in and undercut the prior company and get, a cut rate service. And so these numbers are not what I'm trying to say, cut and dry.
No. No, that's right. Dialysis, they just toss around figures in the neighborhood of $90,000 to $95,000 per patient per year, and roughly $175,000 for a transplant. All right, period, lock, stock, and barrel. But it's different in the system. Inside in the prison system, I imagine there's a difference. I don't know what those numbers are. But then there's also on that side is the quality of care that you're getting, right? And how well that person can function while incarcerated. Dialysis is one thing on the outside when you can come and go, you're still tethered. Inside, you know what? I would suspect that it's almost dangerous to a point that they're not cared for as best they could be cared for. All right. It's very hard. And that's a penalty in itself.
And see, that's the thing which I was going to ask Jared about, just get his point of view, is that, Jared, you advocate for many warriors. Okay, you done got good news, you done got bad news on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you have someone that's incarcerated, right, and say they get a transplant and they don't take care of the transplant, they don't follow up with post-transplant care, and they end up losing a kidney within, let's say, a year to 2 years after that. What are your thoughts on that, man? And you will advocate for people that, I heard you pour your heart out to many warriors, praying for them and asking God to bless them with a transplant. But here you have, say, an inmate or someone, and I'm not judging anyone, but these situations are real. You may have a convicted murderer that getting a transplant, and as I mentioned in here, some of the challenges are continuity of care. And Kent, after Jared speak about that, because if you have someone, a prisoner that going to different prisons, you're going to break the continuity of care, depending on if those medical records get there and whoever see them, and then the whole transplant medicine, if the new prison going to pay. I mean, but before we talk about the continuity of care, what are your thoughts on that, Jared? If an inmate gets a transplant, and it can happen to anyone, but because of the conditions of the prison system, this inmate loses the transplant.
Well, I my I guess my response would be is that you're right, Steve. It does happen. It can happen to just about anyone. In fact, I've interviewed other kidney warriors where they didn't take care of their kidneys and they had to go back on dialysis because they didn't take care of they didn't take care of themselves. They I know one warrior specifically, and I won't mention his name, but I think you know who I'm talking about. Who stopped he stopped taking his immunosuppressant pills, and when you do that, so it can literally happen to anyone, and I know it has because I've interviewed people that care themselves and they find themselves back on dialysis and trying to get a kidney again. And so I I strongly feel as though that we, sometimes it's human nature to look at it, to look at someone's condition because of their history, and it's easy to do. We all do that and we don't even think about it subconsciously. An inmate, we've got to take that aside and leave all prejudices and all preconceived notions set aside, because at the end of the day it's still a person who needs a, and that person chooses to take care of themselves, chooses not to, or their circumstances, where they live or what's happening in their life may have something to play with that. But that happens to everybody as well, not just prisoners. And so I still, I'd have to double down and just say that, at the end of the day, they're still a person. I have to view them as a person, and it's not my, as long and until I'm in that responsibility to judge, like until I'm a warden, or if I'm in some sort of government seat where it's my responsibility to judge, I'm not going to judge them, and I'm just going to see them as a person.
Right, right. So Kent, about the continuity of care, you're a nurse. Um, do you think it could be better in the prison system once a prisoner gets released? Because what they say is the majority of the problem is after patients get released and following up
Yes.
for post-transplant care. That's been a real problem.
Yeah, that's from what I read, you know, a large majority of them, they just lose contact with them. There's no way of really keeping track of them, and then it rests on the quote ex inmate or ex prisoner to take care of himself. So, what kind of issues are and educational processes, if you do have a transplant patient or a couple of them from an institution, are you going to refer them out into a transplant program for follow up? You know, long term follow up. Can you do that? Do you have a working agreement with them? That would be my best, to get them involved with it, because if this guy's going off from, let's say he's incarcerated here in Texas, he's released after having a transplant and ends up going to Indiana, you're going to probably lose that guy. You're not going to be able to follow him. So that's a very big problem that needs to be worked on. It shouldn't be a roadblock, but we know it from a certain study that I looked at. And, you know, there's very little in the literature about this. I'm sure you did your homework.
Yeah,
Steve.
yeah, I got my literature right here.
Yeah, me too. And there's not much in it. And what is there is back around 1998, 2001. You know as well as I do, you don't like to track literature that's much more than 5 years old, because you're getting old info. And so things change.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not a percentage game. Again, we always get into numbers here. Why don't we talk about individual patients? Yes, it's difficult to follow up. It doesn't mean it can't happen. Everything's difficult. It just needs to have a plan of action that allows you to work on it and make it better. Not fix it so much as to try to make it better. And I think that's the most important thing, is that communication after discharge, because it's proven that the follow-up is very poor. All right?
Yeah,
But the success rate of these small number of people that I looked at was just in line with the 1 and 3 year, success rates were just as good as they were in the community. Okay.
right. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. But
yeah.
but Kent, now check this out. Most of the time when inmates get released and they're on dialysis or they had a transplant, a lot of them may not be working or have a hard time
Oh,
with
absolutely.
employment. And how are they going to afford their anti-rejection meds once they get out of the system? Because when they was in the system, they were getting them free. Now they're on the street with no money in their pocket, no job, no resources. Say if they got even a felony, it disqualifies them from a lot of services, social services.
Right.
So what happens in that case?
Well, you've got to be selective here about, let's just take the individual. I don't know, are they covered under Medicare? Actually, would Medicare cover this, or the institution going to cover it? You can't bill between agencies, especially government agencies. But if they're covered by Medicare, they're afforded the same rights afterwards. At work, they get Medicare. If they're on Medicare, they're going to be covered because of the Immunosuppressive Act, which starts in 22. But if they're not, if they're not covered by Medicare, then it's a crapshoot when they leave. Who's going to pay for it?
Right, and that's what I was going to say, because if the federal bureau didn't pay for it and they request the patient to pay and the state pays for it, then that means that state has Medicaid, so Medicaid would pay that. So if a person is convicted of a felony, um, if they can't get a student loan, more than likely they probably can't get Medicare. I don't know the rules, but
right. I don't either, Steve. I don't either. That's where the issue is. It's so vague in here. It's so nebulous that we really don't know the answer to it, and we don't want to. You and I are not, and Jared are not going to speculate here. Not going to speculate at all. All we want to do is afford someone the opportunity, if it's feasible, and we know it's ethically right. I do, in my mind. But, how is it going to get paid for? Because that's how all of this works.
Absolutely.
But, I've seen some very destitute people pull off a transplant without any problem. And they've returned to society. They've returned to work. They continue to be good citizens. And that's the kind of person I want to look at. I'm not going to say, oh, God, they're going to bomb out. They're not going to get a job. They're not going to, they're going to go out and repeat what they did before. I'm not going to predict that. I will predict the transplant, they'll have a better opportunity than going out on dialysis.
Right. And Bella says the coverage is only for 3 years. So after 3 years, if they still not working or don't have any type of insurance.
Yeah.
And I've seen this in many cases.
If you don't have a financial platform, of which to stand on, what's going to happen to you? You're going to revert to something that puts you either back in the slammer, or it's going to jeopardize your health. And that's known. So that's the kind of things we need to be upfront with, transparent, and work on. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying let's focus on it. If we're going to afford that person the opportunity, we got to give them the chance to live long term.
Mm-hmm. Jared, what do you think, Jared? Do you think someone incarcerated that's on dialysis, when the prison administration look at a case by case basis when they're making a decision, or you think everyone who's on dialysis should be afforded to get a transplant?
It
I mean, put you in a hard space. It's just a conversation.
I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, if I were making the decision, I'd say they should have a transplant. Now, I get it; it's not always black and white. You know, there are different circumstances. You know, the inmate may have done different things illegally and criminally, and maybe that info needs to be looked at. However, with that being said, um, there could be, you know, in my opinion, things set up so that that person has an opportunity for a kidney transplant. What up? I don't know, but at the end of the day, I think that everybody deserves a chance because, you know, if anything, if we're not if we're not a country we've got to have compassion.
I agree. I agree. So, Kent, let me read something to you and get your thoughts on it. Transplant programs need to individualize their approaches to waitlisting prisoners, carefully weighing benefits with the possible challenges they may face. Our biggest challenge was loss of follow. Well, this is talking about this study. One of the biggest challenges was loss of follow-up because of inmates' release or transfer. However, during the study, they were unsuccessful in establishing a verifiable current status for 50% of the patients that participated in the study. But with that being said, again, do you think these programs need to be individualized when they're looking at a prisoner and deciding whether to give them a transplant organ?
The threshold of comparison rests with what's the standard of care, right? You've known that a long time in dialysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's good for one individual may not be good for another. And what we do for some people just doesn't work, and some people it just goes really well. So it does boil down to individual evaluations. But the caveat here is how the transplant team has to look from a risk point of view through the jail system. The responsibility of the prisoner rests with the state, not with the transplant program. So getting them registered is just one small part of it. You can get them registered, but how are you going to get them, if they get the call, how are you going to get them transplanted? So the world of transplant, the world of dialysis has two really different sides, in an institution and outside an institution. And the only thing that's been really worked up is what we do for a person outside the system. As an example, if you have an individual, let's say we let somebody go age 3, east, right? He should be able to get good health care just like everybody else, right? He's been released, he's done his time. You know, once you're in the system outside, you should be afforded a chance to get evaluated and worked up just like a normal person. Yes, you may not have a job. You may not have an education. That doesn't mean you can't be evaluated. You can't be taken care of. That's a responsibility of the community. And these transplant programs, if they're going to evaluate somebody, it rests with them to come up with a plan alongside the Justice Department.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And I don't know how else to look at that. I sure have the opinion, that was my opinion, and I'm sure there's plenty of argument out there. I've been kind of reading the feedback here. You know, there's a lot of feedback, and that's what's good about a program like this. Let's get it out there. Let's get it out there and let's work it out. All right? That's what's most important, is making sure people are looking at this. if I was in prison, yeah, okay. So I would really be hopeful that somebody would be helping me if I had kidney disease.
Okay. So
Kidney
Miss,
disease is kidney disease. Yeah.
right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But when you throw a lot of these different components in it, it makes it very complex.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, this article goes on to say, on the other hand, ethics of denying transplantation to otherwise medically fit prisoners who may be released or transferred to another prison are controversial. It is important that valuable resources like deceased kidneys are allocated without compromising the principles of medical necessity, equity, and social justice. Thus, it is necessary that transplant programs and multi-state prison authorities coordinate efficiently to provide a reliable mechanism which ensures post-transplant follow-up in the community or with the transplanting program. What are your thoughts, Ken? Hey, did you hear me, Ken?
Yeah, I heard it, I heard it in sections, and I know where you're headed with this, and it was what we just really actually discussed, Steve. We know what the issue is here. It's not a matter of what the three of us think, and actually, what it means is there going to be an attempt to work things out. In other words, are these transplant programs, agencies, going to work hand in hand with the make it available to prisoners? It's more than just, yeah, we ought to do this, or no, we can't do this, or you shouldn't do this. It's a matter of, can it be done? Because we know it's important. Kidney disease is going to kill you if you're not treated for it. And bless the people that die. 13 people die a day waiting on an organ. Okay?
Right.
13 people a day, and only 50 programs, transplant programs in the country are embracing this issue, right or wrong, of looking at transplanting patients in the prison systems. 50. That's a spit in the bucket.
It is.
What are your thoughts, Jared?
Yeah, I like a lot of what Kent is saying. A lot of it really hinges on how can we make it better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Ken, you mentioned something.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Ken, you mentioned something very interesting. So this would definitely have to work in unison because, again, how would you get the call? How does that work for a patient that's incarcerated and they on the transplant list? And I'm sure they got mechanisms set up because patients have gotten kidney transplants that have been incarcerated. But I'm sure that the logistics on that and the patient who.
I'm sorry, Steve. You're break. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Jared, did you hear what I said?
Yeah. Say it one more time because I was I was concentrating on Kent and I want to hear your question thoroughly.
Well, now I just move on because we're kind of coming down to the hour. But let me say this, Kent. I agree with you. I think healthcare should be afforded to everyone. However, there are certain circumstances that I think should be applied when you're dealing with somebody on death row.
No doubt.
Every situation is different. So now, if the person on death row had a daughter, mother, or someone like close immediate family that needed a kidney, I think that person should be able to donate to their loved one in a controlled environment, because they gonna if they gonna get executed, they're taking the organs with them when they can save someone's life on make right, pretty much.
I mentioned before that I'm working with. I'm no longer working with them because the lady passed on, but she had a son who was incarcerated, and we worked very hard to go through the system to get him to be able to donate to her. Didn't work out for us, in my book it was a failure, but it gained me valuable information. Or if I approach somebody about it, that I think I would have a lot better. All right.
Right.
But that's two sections.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's two sides of this. There's giving a guy a kidney or letting that guy give somebody a kidney on the outside. All right.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of ethical things here. All I'm saying, let's have a discussion.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah.
With that
have the
said,
discussion. We discuss everything else in the world. Why don't we?
Absolutely.
So what?
So Ken,
I think tonight.
And again,
go ahead, Jared.
Apologize. Yeah, there seems to be a little delay when we're talking, and apologize for that. So, I'm just going to ask. So, when Steve brought this discussion to me and asked me to co-host, that I had, and again, I'm not somebody who has any of the responsibility. Just a person who has a amount of compassion for humans, and I think that we all should afford getting a kidney transplant. But what if the person has the responsibility, whether the warden or governor, whoever, that the inmate should be given like a high risk kidney, based on the criteria, and because I don't know, that person says, well, he should be given a high risk kidney because he may not he may be in prison for the next 20 years, whereas a good kidney should go on who has. Do you think that should be discussed, or should it be just that person should get a?
Yeah, it's open to discussion, Jared. I mean, I don't have the wherewithal, the knowledge, or actually, I do have the conviction to say, and that's what we're doing here. We're just opening up, and this is not a can of worms. This is not a can of worms. This is an honest attempt just to let people out there suffering with kidney disease, and they're incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the difference, right? Isn't that what we're trying to do here? That's all we're doing. But and then the warden, right? And the warden and the board, the parole board, or whatever the mechanism is for decision making within the prison system, has got to come up with a valued way of looking at it and afford the individual the opportunity to seek a transplant. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And if it can't be done, at least we've voiced our opinion about it and made them talk. All right?
Absolutely.
That's
right.
Absolutely.
Not a matter. We're not making any decisions here. I would never want to make or indicate to me that I know anything about this. But I can tell you what, we've opened up a chance for dialogue. That's what we wanted to do here tonight, I believe.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's why I had the show.
Indeed.
Absolutely, to open up for definitely some dialogue and have this discussion. And
Bring on.
you got basically hit it on the head, Jed, when you talked about asking, Ken opinion about the Hep C, because here at the conclusion of this article, it says, it is crucial that prisoners with end-stage renal disease have improved access to transplantation to lower mortality and save costs. This requires the transplant community to advocate for transplantation for prisoners and develop uniform listing guidelines.
Exactly.
And then
Right.
another
Yes,
potential
yes.
way to improve access is by offering kidneys from Hep C positive donors. Very low transmission rates and good post-transplant outcomes have been demonstrated with the newer antiviral drugs against Hep C.
Yes,
However, this
exactly.
strategy should be
Right, right.
adopted once long-term follow-up is ensured. So,
The
you know,
whole
Yes,
the
yes.
whole process. Yep, that whole process. What you just described, Steve, is the entire process. This is not pulling out one little item and another little item and another little item and discussing those. We got to discuss it in total and let the experts, the people with the say, the people with the knowledge,
Right.
and with the ability to make a decision. Let's let them go to work together. We've
Yeah.
opened the dialogue here. We're not setting precedent. All we're doing is opening it up. That's what we're asking people to look at.
absolutely. So as we wind down, Kent, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on. Tell people,
Yeah. Thanks for
why
having
the
me.
show.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
but
Like
Kent,
I said, no expert. I can tell you what, kidney disease sucks, and I don't care where you're at. If you have it, you're in bad shape. You need help.
right? Kent,
Absolutely.
before we let you go, Kent, just tell the audience, the viewing audience, where they can find you and your services at, and what you offer every Thursday. Did you hear me?
Are you still there, Kent?
I wonder if he's getting a delay.
Can you hear us? Yeah. Delay. Kent?
Can you hear me, Kent?
No problem. I'm gonna copy and paste the URL for his website.
Can you hear me, Kent? Guess he's gonna write something down.
Are you still out there,
Yeah.
Jared?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. We're still here, Kent.
I put the website
We can still hear you.
in the comments section.
I'm not sure what happened with his sound, Jared. I wonder what he's using.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna ask him to log out and come back in.
Okay. So, guys, while
Hopefully,
Jared, he's definitely the producer of the show. Want to give big ups and big thanks to Jared A. Brown, working in a dual role tonight as producer and co-host. I'd like to thank the TikTok community right now. If you're watching, anybody from TikTok that's watching, thank you so much for the follows. It's been an incredible and crazy ride from last Saturday, from 8,900 followers to over 19,000 followers on TikTok. It's just been
oh my
amazing.
god, that is
So I like to
nuts.
thank.
That's insane.
Yes, yes. And I'm going live after the show to do an education moment, do some show and tell on TikTok. So y'all catch me over there while I do that after the show. Yeah, Jared, it's been an amazing ride, man, for the last week.
Wow, that's exciting. That's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Jared, who you have coming up on the Warriors Quest show next week?
So next week, I've got somebody who he's not, although he's not looking for a kidney, he's not necessarily on dialysis. He has lupus, and so like I had mentioned before, sometimes most of the time I'm interviewing.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, we got Kent back. Jared, we lost Jared. You there,
Thanks for
Jared?
the opportunity here.
Kent, what I was asking you before we lost your sound is tell people where they can reach you at and your information for your support group.
Yeah, everything that we do is driven off of kidneysolutions.org. And thank you for putting it in the chat. Appreciate that. So if that people will just go to kidneysolutions.org, kidneysolutions, one word, .org, they'll come up to the website, and there's blogs on the website. There's my podcasts are on the website, articles from donors. We have a donor coordinator. When you in respect to the transplant support group, it's on Monday nights, 6:00 Central Standard Time. Just email me through kidneysolutions.org and I'll put you on the list. We'll invite you in. Everybody's in, no matter what, whether you've been transplanted, you're looking for a donor, you're on dialysis, it's available to anybody who wants to come in.
Okay, awesome, man. Awesome. Appreciate you. All right, man. Well, we ain't going to hold you again. Thank you for coming on, Steve, the kidney nurse, and holding this dialogue concerning prison inmates, incarcerated, and transplants. Been a very great discussion, man, and I thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did. I always appreciate it. Let's give everybody an opportunity if they got kidney disease. I don't care. Just give them a chance. Everybody is afforded the opportunity to figure out what's going on with their body and to try and resolve it. They can make their own decisions.
Absolutely. All right, Kent.
Thank you.
You take care, my friend. Stay safe and God bless.
Same to you. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. So I lost my coat. There you go. Jared A. Brown.
Hey, what's up?
So
yeah, when Kent came back on, why we had a little of issues tonight, man. I feel about that. I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. We putting out that information. They trying to stop us.
That's right.
So tell us, who's on the Warriors Quest next week? You was talking about that and then you froze up.
Yeah, so I've got somebody who's coming on Wednesday. His name's Lou. Lou has lupus. He's not currently looking for a kidney donor, but he has lupus, and that in itself brings a lot of a lot of different issues. Anybody else who has lupus in the kidney disease community knows that even after a kidney transplant, you still have lupus. And so lupus is something that I'm going to be talking to him about, and how he's overcoming it and how he's fighting against it. And so I'll be bringing him on. I met him on Instagram, and I'm trying to get some co-hosts for Wednesday who also is. I may reach out to the Warrior Princess and reach out to Henderson III as well. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Look forward to that show.
Yeah, me too. Hey, this is a great discussion tonight, and I think that it deserves to be talked about more and more. And
Oh, absolutely, man. This was a great discussion. Something that needs to be talked about, and just like to tell the audience to look out for more discussion topics like this. Not exactly prison topics, but discussions relating to kidney disease and transplant and other chronic health conditions that continue to plague individuals across the world.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
sounds
all
good,
right,
Steve.
Jared.
Man,
I'm getting ready to go on TikTok. If you still up, come on over there. I want to do show the needles and the catheter and talk some dialysis a little bit and answer some questions.
Nice. All right, man. I'll join you over there. Thanks.
All right, man. Take it easy, bro.
You too. Bye.
All right. So guys, this has been a great show. I want to thank again Kent Bressler from Kidney Solution. And again, I said transplant solution. I just realized that, but it's Kidney Solution. Go check them out at kidneysolution.org. Tons of information. Transplant support group over there. Some great people over there. Also, check out Jared A. Brown of the Warriors Quest Show every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. And then we have other shows out there, kidney shows that has sprung up and is doing great work. We got Hope with Jonathan. We have Transplant with Nashonda. We have Hope with Bella. We have Kidney Stories with Uncle Jim. And then I'm going to be returning in January with every week on World Kidney News right here on Urban Health Outreach Media. So tune in this January every Sunday for I don't have a time yet, but for World Kidney News, where it's going to be a lot of discussion on that. So thank you guys again. TikTok, if you're watching, thank you guys for the follows, the likes, the love. I appreciate it. I'm going to continue to put more content for kidney disease advocacy, education, and information on that platform. See you guys later. Have a blessed evening. I'm out of here, and stay safe, guys. Peace.
Warriors around, don't get caught in the mosh pit. Fuel to the fire, ain't nobody can stop it. Trouble in my city, but you know I'm across it. Got a 40 on my hip and I'm liable to spark it. Throw down these hits, my click is indivisible. I aim, you duck, I squeeze, now you invisible. I'm not afraid of getting physical. All these different chemicals are fogging up my visuals. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we notorious, we ain't no runners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Yo, we some warriors, they ain't called gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Bloods on my hands, got slugs on my gunners. Put on my strap, put on the beat, put on the map, put on my team. Take out every motherfucker in between, know what I mean? Better myself, better my aim, better my rap, better my name. Killing rappers on my hang, I'm by their chains for the fame. Never thought I would it, now I'm running. You don't wanna follow me, now my